I am Sakshi, your host for the night. I'm from the value creation team at MBA and Beyond. And with me, we have Gustavo and Prasanna, our two lovely speakers. Um, Maybe Gustavo, you can introduce yourself, and then Prasanna, you can take over. Gustavo, you're on mute.
Thank you, Sakshi. Hello, everyone. My name is Gustavo D'Avanzo, born and raised in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Well, I've been working in the corporate business world for about 30 years in big multinational companies in the oil and gas and energy business in Latin America, in the US and Canada, and in Southeast Asia. In senior leadership positions in corporate finance. And during that time, I also completed an executive development program at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and started working first as a hobby, helping friends, colleagues in their MBA applications, and that growth that has been growing in scale, and currently since several years, I'm fully devoted to helping MBA applicants to make their dreams come true, to get accepted by top business schools with scholarships.
Prasanna, you're on mute as well.
Classic. Hi everyone, I'm Prasanna. I'm from Hyderabad, India, and I am an engineer by qualification. I started off as a software programmer, and after 2 years, I realized that programming technical thing was not for me. So I decided to get an MBA, and I went to Bocconi in Milan. After getting my MBA, I returned to India and I worked across several industries like infrastructure, food, FMCG, mostly in operations and project management. A few years ago, I started a social startup, social enterprise, where we work with women from low income groups here in Hyderabad and help them in getting skilled and getting placed. And coming to the MBA consulting, I've been doing this for about 6 7 years, and yeah, it gives me immense pleasure to work with applicants and help them getting clarity, putting things together, and helping them achieve their goals in some form. So I'm here today to answer all your questions as much as I can. Over to you, Sakshi.
Great. Thanks, Prasanna, and thanks, Gustavo, for the lovely introduction. So I'll just take a moment over here. Guys, if you can see my screen, just to appraise you that INSEAD and HEC and the other European schools, Jan's deadline, Jan 25 intake deadline is almost here. If you're someone who's targeting R1 for the schools, it's almost few days left, but you can also target R2 for the schools and start your prep right now. So I would really urge you guys to start early and start today. And now we can start this session. So just to let you guys know how the session would work is in the first 25 to 30 minutes, we would take in the questions that we have already received from the applicants. And towards the end, that is the next 30 minutes, we'll take in the questions that we received in the chat box. So you guys can start, entering your questions in the chat box, and we'll take those one by one. And to begin with the first question, I'll take the first question. So yeah, which is about how are early action rounds different from regular rounds? Maybe Gustavo, you can start, and then Prasanna, you can add on.
Okay, thank you, Sakshi. Well, early action is a special feature offered by few schools, and it's a great opportunity for some applicants interested specifically in a school to a great extent to make a great stand by applying first. Usually, in terms of timeline, they are coming due like 3 to 4 weeks earlier than the usual dates for round one. And the beauty of this is some of them might give you the opportunity to ensure you, once you have already submitted your application, the possibility of having an admissions interview. And that way, of course, convey your great personality, your realistic goals, practical goals, short-term, long-term, all of that, and make and have greater chances of making it happen. Also, you would likely have earlier final decision, okay? But some of them are binding and non-binding, or non-binding depending on the school. That's something that we will like to talk about later. And definitely you need to make a great connection with the school, because this should be the school you are aiming at, and you should be able to show to what great extent you've done a great school research and how your experience and your values match with those of the school you are applying to early round. Prasanna, do you want to
Thanks,
add
Gustavo.
anything?
Yes, that was a great introduction, like Gustavo said. I just wanted to add that in addition to what you've already mentioned, one prominent thing that I can think of the advantage of early or going for the early action rounds is that the AdCom obviously is sitting there with a fresh mind, so they give more attention, better attention to your application. And also, since the scholarship funds are still fresh, yet a lot of that is applicable, available rather, to be given away. And another advantage that I can think of is that once you get your admit, you're done with all of your admission process and all, which takes quite a lot of time. You have a lot of time till the program starts for you to prepare for things like visa or living arrangements, arrange for your finances, etc. Also get to know the community, access to any sort of pre-courses, networking, etc. So it's something that you can just get done with and then let it rest while you pursue other things. That's all I wanted to say.
Mhm. Just one other thing. Thank you. That's awesome, Prasanna. Also, always assuming definitely that you are applying early action or early decision with a very strong application package. That's the main point here, okay? You would have, to some extent, as Prasanna mentioned, better chance or some chances of getting some potential scholarship, and slightly better chances of assuming a good GRE or GMAT score, slightly better chances of getting accepted, because you are showing, if you can show and prove your great connection with the school, values, everything, those chances might be increased. And while you could also later, after that, focus on, from a strategy perspective, on the application to other schools for round one, and have a more diverse set of schools you are applying to. That's it.
Got it. Thanks, Gustavo. Thanks, Prasanna. That was really insightful. We have the next question, which is how can I create a strong application for early action? Me, Prasanna, you can start, and then Gustavo can add. You're on mute, Prasanna.
Sorry, there's a lot of background noise, so I had to mute. So as I was saying, uh, be it for early action round or for any other round, creating a strong application requires a lot of work, and you need to focus on being able to tell a good story, sell yourself, telling the adcom what you bring to the school, what you bring to the table, what are your goals, and how the school can help you achieve them. And with respect to early action, you have the time to figure out your timelines, and especially now that we are still in February, you have time to prepare for your tests. It could be GRE, GMAT, whatever. So you can have the target score, and in case you miss it, you have time to retake the test, and then spend a couple of months, or set aside a couple of months to build the application and then work out your story, your narrative, etc. So that should be the focus, like Gustavo was mentioning a while ago. Even if you're applying for the early round, it's really important to have a strong application, and applying early kind of gives you that kind of time and leeway to put everything together properly. Over to you, Gustavo.
Thank you, Prasanna. Well, you've very well explained the end-to-end process. That I would just add that yes, I would say that planning ahead well in the very early stage, in the very first months of the year for your standardized test, so that you can have, I would say, at least 3 months, in order to complete a very strong application package to the first school you would be planning to apply early decision, early action. As we mentioned, you need to apply with a very strong application package to make it happen. And since it will be your the first school you will be applying to, it is expected that you may have some, you may go back and forth with some great suggestions and enhancements to your essays, that we will be suggesting to you. So it's not expected that with your first or second draft, essay draft, you will be applying to those schools. And also you will need to work with third-party recommenders, and that takes time. School research and networking, especially networking to students and alumni, takes time. So 3 months before, so that you are very well prepared and apply on time.
Got it, Gustavo and Prasanna. We have the third question from the applicants, which is, what are some key points that they should focus on in their essays for early action round? Maybe Prasanna, you can take it ahead.
I'll let Gustavo take this one.
Sure.
We'll take turns.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in order to successfully tackle essays, I would say, regardless of whether you're applying early action or early round or early decision or the regular rounds, we would need to make sure we are specifically addressing and answering what the essay prompt is asking, So, and when doing that, and also answering short answer questions, general questions throughout the whole application package, we should make sure that applicants are conveying, as much as they can about to make a great connection as with the school they are applying to, how the specific MBA program is of that school is going to significantly help them achieve their career goals post MBA, show clarity and realistic goals for short term and long term, work very well on short-term goals also, and yes, show with experiences, personal, academic, professional experiences, how well the applicants' experience resonate with the school's values and principles, in order to show, to connect very well to what the school is looking for in applicants, and to strengthen everything in the applicant's profile. But main point is answer strongly what the essay is asking, and always trying to support statements with great examples from academic, professional, and personal stories. Rosanna, you want to add anything?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Gustavo. That was very detailed. The only thing I think I wanted to add was that, like you said, answer the essay prompt, give great examples from your personal, professional lives, etc. And also, I think the most important thing you are to note is to be genuine, because a lot of applicants want to be different. They just try to be different because they are told that you need to be different and stand out. But the only way to stand out is to be genuine, authentic, and personal and tell your story, your goals, and your experiences, not because you've read something on GMAT Club or some other forum that a successful applicant has written this or that. That may not apply to you. So be personal, tell your story. That's I think is the most important factor for an application to be successful.
Got it, Prasanna. We have one more question, from the applicants, which is, what is the strategic approach for managing the application timeline for early action rounds, and when should an applicant start their application?
Shall I go first?
Yeah, Prasanna, you can go ahead.
Sure. I think we briefly covered this a while ago when Gustavo was saying that you need at least 3 months, 2 to 3 months to work on the application, right? So um, the early application rounds is usual somewhere in September. So you'll have to set aside at least 2 to 3 months before that for the application, and probably 2 to 3 months before you start working on the application for your exam. So ideally, I think that would work well, because even if you want to retake your exam, you have a few months. So I think ideally you have to start now for the early action rounds, and that's why we have this session. Do you have anything to add, Gustavo?
Oh, yes, you explained very well, comprehensively. Yes, we have not only essay writing, also networking, as we mentioned, which takes time, after school research, and also letters of recommendation that we also depend on the bandwidth of third-party recommenders, and as much as we can, if they are also flexible to some feedback from the applicant or from us through the applicant. We might also want to check consistency between LORs and essays as much as we can. So yes.
Got it, Gustavo. And Prasanna, we have the last question from our bunch of questions, which is also something that applicants have asked, is which are the top business schools that offer early action rounds?
Okay, shall I take it?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay. So, well, that depends year after year, but currently, for example, Duke Fuqua, Darden, University of Virginia, TAC, Dartmouth College. So in last previous year application cycle, I'm almost sure that TAC didn't provide that, but this year they did. They did provide a time window for early decision, early action, and that way they ensure applicants to have earlier, all of them applying early decision, they had the opportunity to be interviewed. That's a great opportunity. And in the past also, Columbia Business School has also offered this feature, okay, and has had a huge number of applicants applying to Columbia from all over the world, early decision, early action. And one other thing is we should not get confused between early decision or early action and rolling admissions, because rolling admissions is you may apply during a certain timeline, and as long as you have already submitted your application in full, that is with all LORs have already been submitted by your recommenders, everything, transcripts, everything is complete. As you will have some certainty that as long or as early as the admissions committee may fully revisit your application, you will be informed about next steps, okay, interview invites and then some next steps. Rosanna?
I really don't have anything to add, Gustavo. I think you've covered everything beautifully. Thank you.
Okay.
Got it, Prasanna. And Gustavo, we have the questions from the chat box that we can start taking, which is, what are the chances of scholarship in early action rounds?
Gustavo, would you like to take this one, or do you want me to?
Okay, you may, what are the potential scholarship options, right, for early action? Okay, so.
Yeah, what are the scholarship chances? Yeah.
Okay, so in the past there was a kind of myth, a myth that applicants, candidates applying early action, early decision didn't have that much chance of getting some scholarships because they would be available only specifically for round one and the remaining for round two, okay, not for round three or round four, certainly, but only exceptionally for round three. But, it depends on a case by case situation, I would say that as long as the applicant can convey in a genuine way, in a very transparent and authentic way, as Prasanna mentioned, his or her accomplishments, okay, achievement strengths, and also, very importantly, failure situations, in which he or she may have learned, yes, definitely has, and very importantly, what he or she has learned from this failure situation going forward, okay? That's, and showing potential, and to what great extent the MBA program can help the applicant achieve their career goals post-MBA, and to what great extent they are strongly connected with the school's values, okay? And so depending on the profile and the connection with the school, they can get either some merit-based scholarships, have some chances, and some need-based scholarship as well, So that's something that depends also on all of these factors, and yes, and on the admissions committee decision, But the sooner you can, the sooner you can touch base with them and apply and make your profile be there, on the admissions table, the better, That would be my answer. Prasanna?
Yeah, I completely agree, Gustavo. It's you can't really tell for sure because obviously you don't know what the budgeting for scholarships are. They may vary from intake to intake, but it would make sense to assume that the sooner you apply, there is more availability, right? So, but you will still have to make a great case for yourself. There is no guarantee, or there you cannot assume that because you are applying in the early round, you might be entitled for a scholarship. You will still have to prove your merit, put your case forward. So, yeah, that would be my answer, I think. Over to you, Sakshi.
Got it, Prasanna and Gustavo. We have the next question from Sanket, which is how important is GMAT score if someone has a low GPA in their undergrad studies at IIT, which is a top tier institute in India? Prasanna, if you
Shall I
can
take
answer
this
this.
one?
Yeah.
This is from Sanket, right? So, Sanket, this is a tricky question because GMAT is not really like a deal breaker, as in there is no cutoff which says you are not supposed to apply if you score below this. That way, they are quite flexible. Most of the top business schools are flexible, but the purpose of GMAT is to assess your analytical critical thinking capability. So if you perform well on it, it is always good, and it kind of reflects the ability or your performance, your potential performance on the program during the program. So this also goes for your GPA or academic performance, etc. So if you do well in your academics, the adcom can safely assume that you will do well in the program also, because it kind of reflects your analytical capabilities. So, however, if you've mentioned that there is low GPA yet you studied at IIT. IIT is definitely a premier institute, so the fact that you have gained entrance into it reflects your capabilities definitely. But then it's kind of offset by your low score, low GPA during your undergraduation. So the best option in this case would be obviously to try and compensate that with a good GMAT. However, you can also address this in your application, make your, again, like I said, it always goes back to telling your story, selling yourself, etc. And then probably address this in your, if you have a genuine reason for poor performance during your graduation, could be health reasons or anything, you can always address it in your optional essays and tell your story. So it's not a deal breaker. You can always work on that.
Yeah. Continuing the question, he has actually also asked, does strong work experience at a top tier investment bank also helps offset the GPA?
Should I take this one, or Gustavo, would you
Yeah,
like to?
it's Sanket's question, which is in continuation.
Okay. Oh, in a way, to an extent, yes, but also you have to understand that your accomplishments at work reflect slightly different skills, and they don't exactly offset your low GPA. So again, it all comes back to how well you can tell your story. But if you have good accomplishments at work, it is always an advantage, definitely. So if low GPA is your only issue, it is not a deterrent. You can always address that in your application package. That's my suggestion.
Got it, Prasanna. I hope we have answered the question, Sanket. We have the next question from Usman. So if Usman, if you can, unmute your mic and ask the question, that would be really great and interactive.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Good evening. Actually, my question is, my undergraduate in computer science. So I have worked as a software developer for 2, 3 years. Then I moved on partial scholarship to Dubai for business management. And then I realized because I have to go for the MBA from the like top business school. So now I'm targeting business school like hopefully like next year. So right now I'm working on my I started working on my application. I just enrolled for the GMAT to prepare it. So right now I have worked for the software developer for few years, but to move to the business field, still I'm struggling to get a certain role where I can portray myself in terms of managerial role. Like okay, I have left one successful career as a software developer because I was I owned one software house back in my country, and I left that and I took a risk to shift all over to the business field. But now in Dubai, it's not like I'm not getting that certain role, where I can write something, accomplishment, something in my essays. Like, okay, I have left that career and now I am on this position, and these are the leadership qualities and everything. So how because I think I'm a little bit someone say like these roles they will set you back, front desk operators and sales executive, because like these roles you should have the leadership roles or a certain amount of managerial position.
Got it. Prasanna, do you want to take this one?
Um, I think I'll let Gustavo take this one. I'm curious to
Yes.
hear his
Okay.
inputs.
I couldn't hear very well the whole story, but can you summarize the main point of the question? So, what would be the main concern? Leadership experience, managerial experience?
Yeah, I don't have managerial experience.
Okay. Okay, but okay, so I couldn't hear very well your whole context, but we don't have to get confused between managerial experience, which is also a very good trait, but not all the applicants have applying to business school, compare with leadership experience. Leadership is the ability to positively influence internal, external stakeholders, different organizations, your own organization, vendors, customers, whatever. So I may tell that if you have 2, 3 years or 4 years of meaningful work experience, you would definitely have situations, specific situations, instances, achievements where you positively influence others, providing some in-depth analytical, presentation, making your points, explaining pros and cons, and presenting and paving the way for the decision makers to make it happen and go forward with the project. So as long as you can convey that, also leading by example, by getting others in the same page as you are, towards complying with a specific goal, you will be able to make it happen, in the application, and this is part of the service we provide, by one of the early stages in our admissions process is, besides a lot of information about some answers to specific questions, to 3 references that we ask to all of our potential applicants about your personality, accomplishments, strengths, weak points, all of that. We work with you through a platform that prompts you to showcase your strengths, achievements, weaknesses, failure situations, examples of them, okay, measuring success by providing KPIs. So with all of that, we can identify the main skills you've been able to convey in your application and helping you, in some cases, mitigate some some weak points, So I don't know whether I have answered that.
Yeah, and
And also, it's important. Sorry, it's also important that you can show that throughout your career, whatever it's 2 year work experience or 3 years or so, if you could ideally show that you were promoted, okay, throughout that period, that would also be an early indicator of high potential.
Okay. Thank you.
Rosanna, you want to add anything?
You've explained it very well, Gustavo. I think you've covered the most important bits. And I just wanted to add that, Usman, your work experience alone doesn't determine the chances of you getting into the business school. Like Gustavo was saying, a lot of other things come into factor. Management and leadership are very, very different things. So you might have accomplished a lot outside your work experience also, right? Through your extracurriculars, outside work, through college, etc. Anything where you've influenced other people, you've taken lead, you've taken initiatives, created impact. All of that can be used in your story. And like I said, you do not have to be limited to your work experience.
Okay.
That's it
Thank
from me.
thank you.
Got it, Prasanna. I hope we have answered the question, Osama. Um, we have the next question from Ishan, which is, what is the timeline for interview invites and final results for early application rounds? Maybe Gustavo, you want to take this one, or Prasanna?
I let
Okay,
Gustavo go.
well, okay. So usually interview invites come, I would say, in the case of early decision, early action, might depend on the school, offering that, but it might take 3 to 4 weeks to get invited to interview, and final results would depend on the school also themselves, some of them might also want to make final decision a little bit earlier than round one, and some others, make final decision within the timeline of round one final decisions, So it depends on the school, on how the school would like to work on that. Depends on the school, basically.
Got it.
Prasanna,
Yeah.
do you want to add anything?
No, you're right. It completely depends on the school, but you've given the general timeline, so I agree with that.
Mhm.
Got it. We have the next question from Raksha. So, Raksha, if you want to, unmute yourself and ask the question, that would be great. I can take this question from my end, which is it possible to resubmit
Yeah,
some?
sorry about that.
Okay,
Sorry.
no worries. Yeah, you can go ahead.
Um, yes, so I've read a lot about how some people resubmit their scores. Let's say that you apply with a certain score, but then you write in a short section that, hey, maybe I'm not that confident. I'd like to retake this in a month. But then by that time we would have already crossed early action, right? The deadlines for early action. So do all schools allow resubmission of GRE/GMAT scores from early action to further rounds?
I think I can answer this, Raksha. It will completely depend on the school, and the best would obviously be to look for the information on the school portal. And if you don't find the answer there, you can always write to the admissions committee, and they're usually very responsive, and they can tell you very clearly if they will accept, But most people usually insist the scores be submitted along with the application, as in at least before the deadline. So you might want to check with the school for this one.
Yeah,
It'll
so
vary from school to school.
correct. So we submit with an initial score, let's say a 700 in the GMAT, but then you do well again in the next round that you're going to give, let's say a month, and you get like a 20-30 point increase. Can I, kind of resubmit that, and do all top B schools kind of allow that process?
Like I'm saying, there's no fixed rule which applies to all schools. Like I said, some might accept, some might not, because like we were answering in the addressing in the previous question, there's a certain time frame within which the decisions are made for a round, right? So if the decisions for that particular round are already made, so it might be tricky for you to kind of submit your score after that. So
Okay.
the best would be to check with the school, and it would always be ideal to get your best GMAT score before you start applying.
Yep. Thanks. I got
Well,
it.
Yes, I would just add that's completely the case, depends on the school. And eventually, some schools actually do not welcome, resubmitting scores, all of that. But, even in that extreme case, if you were able to improve your score between the time you apply to and the time you are invited to interview, at some point in time, by the end of the interview call, if there's something you wish they had asked you, or there's some room for something for you to say, you could inform your interviewer that you were able to retake the test and improve your score by X number of points. And that would be completed,
Got it. Thanks.
Okay.
Got it, Gustavo. We have the next question from Zakaria Brito, which is, does US schools not admit students completed graduation in distance / open university? So yeah, and also, is it a drawback? Maybe Gustavo, you can take this one.
Sorry, can you say that again? Saksi, I couldn't listen.
Does US schools, not accept students completing graduation from distance / open university?
Completing graduation from distance.
Yeah. Maybe, Rito, you can just unmute your mic and ask the question.
Oh yeah, thanks, Sakshi. By distance, I mean an online mode of learning. So I never went to college. This was done by an online platform, and I was wondering if US actually takes admissions for an MBA because I heard the opposite.
Okay, you are referring to your bachelor's degree, that you completed your bachelor's degree completely online?
That's right. Yes.
Okay, so you will need to, okay, so I would say that you will need to check that with the different schools you would be applying to. But, as long as these schools, provide an official, certification of your bachelor's degree, and this is completely valid country-wise, all of that, at first hand, I wouldn't see any issue, but you definitely may want to check that specifically with each business school to see what their requirements are, but I don't have a kind of black and white answer to that. Okay, as long as I would say first, as I can assume, the program provided by, and the title, the degree provided by the school you are referring to, should be definitely very well recognized in the country you got your degree from, and from there, contacting admissions to check your eligibility for the applications.
Got it.
Prasanna, do you want to add anything?
I think not much, but did you get your degree from IGNO, Zakaria?
Well, I got it from Annamalai University, which happens to be UGC recognized.
Yes, it is. So
Okay.
see, as long as you have a degree which has credits and it says it's a bachelor's degree on your certificate, I don't think it should be a problem, because at no point in your application essays are you required to say if you attended your bachelor's in person or was it distance education. But yes, I'd like to underline again that it varies from school to school. Most of the information is on the admission portal and you can go through it, and if you have any doubt, just shoot a mail to the admissions team and you'll get your answer. That would be the best source of information.
Thank you. Another point would be, a question I would have is, how many years regularly it would take to get this degree, official degree, bachelor's degree, according to the core program, to the core and elective programs? How many years for this bachelor's degree? 5?
3.
3? Well, that's on the borderline. Okay, yes, definitely go and check with admissions for each business school. Yes.
Got it. Thanks a lot.
I hope we have answered the questions. And then we have one last question, which is from Tanya about, is there a limit to the number of schools an applicant can apply to in early action rounds? Which is no, you can apply to as many schools as you want, but very few schools offer the early actions here. Guys, do we have any more questions, or if anyone wants to ask any more questions, you can just unmute your mic and ask the question.
Mhm. I have something to add, Sakshi.
Yeah.
Just for the full context, I understand that every potential applicant is aware of that, but just in case, definitely in the cases that there's a binding early decision, early action, I would say early decision process in which you've been accepted, you will be prompted to pay a non-refundable deposit, okay? And the amount will vary depending on the school from, say, $4,000, $3,000 to $6,000, depending on the school. And definitely so that if this strategy of applying early decision makes sense, you would be willing from the very beginning, to pay that, and assume that eventually you would have to forego that amount, in case you, as we mentioned, have for round one, later a strategy of applying to 4 other schools, round one and 1 or 2 schools for early decision, so you can eventually evaluate whether to finally, if you were accepted to more than 1 school, you will finally evaluate whether there are some options to leverage some scholarship award or negotiate scholarship or go into some other school. But definitely makes sense to pay that as kind of insurance and save and ensure a safe place at the school of your choice.
Got it. I think that's a very, very important point, Gustavo, that you have mentioned. And it is also important for all the applicants to know that if they're applying in R1 about the deposit. Hassan, anything you want to mention? We have, I think, 1 or 2 few questions coming up in the chat box.
No, I don't have anything to add. I mean, Gustav has been very, very detailed in the answer, so I'm good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. We have a question in the chat box from Sanket, which is, do US schools give importance to extracurricular activities as well?
Yeah, I would have to say yes, Sanket. I mean, as such, business schools do, because they're not looking only at your academic performance and your professional achievements, but they want to see, they want to understand you as a person as a whole. Do you have leadership qualities? Do you create impact on the people around you? And what kind of interests push you? Like what are you? So it's always good to have extracurriculars where you have showcased your personality beyond academics, beyond professional achievements. And again, the importance of extracurriculars depends again on the school and all that. But generally, yes, if you can showcase some leadership skills through, let's say, if you were a head boy, head girl in school, or you headed some sort of clubs during college, you did some community service, it'll always be an added advantage.
Got it. I hope that has answered the question. Sanket, we have one more question from Raksha. So, Raksha, if you can just unmute your mic and ask the question.
Yeah. So, since the chances of scholarships are kind of higher in the early action rounds, is the general pattern that the competition is also higher in R1 versus R2 because, or the chances of, let's say, an above average profile getting selected in round one versus round two? Is the competition higher, basically?
I'll let you take this one, Gustav.
So, for round one, I would say yes, the competition, round one and round two are very competitive instances, but definitely for round one, I would say the best advice would be your top school, if there's an open window for very few schools offer early action, early decision. So if one of your top choices are the ones that offer early action, early decision, I would go for it. Always, you need to have a very strong application package. a very consistent and comprehensive, very strong application package in all cases. And if that were not the case, no early action, early decision, open window, I would definitely advise to go for round one. This question always arises, and some applicants think that you would have better chances to be considered for round two, some of them round one, but definitely if you have a very strong application package, you will increase your chances of getting accepted by round one, and also getting some scholarship, compared with round two, where the scholarships will, there might be some chances for a scholarship, but definitely lower amounts, because of the budget shrinkage, So I don't know whether this fully answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I think if there's a higher chance of scholarship, then there is higher competition. So I got my answer. So sort of continuing that question on scholarships, again, based on your experience, if you could quantify the percentage of scholarships that kind of get over in the first round, in the second round, maybe just to get a more clearer picture. I'm thinking like 60-40, but maybe it's worse. So, if you could help me out with that.
Well, that depends on the school, on the school strategy, but I would say that at least 60% or 65%, I would say, of the scholarship budget will be used during round one, up to once round one applications have been completed, reviewed, and final decisions were made. That would also include potential scholarships for early decision candidates, that were accepted, but and you would have a kind of remaining 35%, 40% for round two, But that's hard to tell, That depends on the school. Even that depends on the year, I don't know, Prasanna, if you want to add anything on that, to show some.
Sorry, I'm muted again. We covered this topic a while ago, right? So it, like you said, depends on the school and depends on the budget set aside for scholarships. But the sooner, the better, always.
Yeah.
Got it, Prasanna. I hope we have answered the questions, Raksha. Guys, if you can see the screen, there's a QR code where you can enter your feedback. As for the last feedback that we got, a lot of you requested for the early action session, and we did that this week. So you can just enter your feedback so that we can come up with more such sessions. Thank you so much, Prasanna and Gustavo, for joining in. This was really insightful. And I hope the applicants have also found it really insightful.
Happy to be here and share my thoughts.
Yes,
Great.
always happy to be here and share these great experiences.
Great. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Have a great week ahead. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Gustavo.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Sakshi. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Prasanna. Thank you, Sakshi.